Okay. Let me. Let's import just a moment. Okay. Okay. Let's start it. Good evening, everybody. The United Chinese Association of Utah welcome you all to this seminar on self-defense. During the past couple of years, we saw increasing number of dangerous incidents targeting Asian people and especially targeting the Chinese Americans. In the places as safe we normally think is very safe as Utah, we had two incidents. One is attempted kidnapping of a Chinese woman last week, and probably 3 weeks ago, we have a breakthrough of a Chinese restaurant in a very good neighborhood. And in schools, in working places, we also see kind of racial related issues. With this, kind of increasing challenges, what we can do as normal people? What is the right approach to protect ourselves? And we invited Mr. Brandin Parker to give a presentation. Brandin is, I'll say later, he will briefly introduce himself, but I'll say a little bit. He is he's a 尹氏八卦掌的传人. He also majored in psychology. He can give us, things in both the combination of both fields. Brandin, would you please introduce yourself a little bit? Then we can start.
Absolutely. So yes, my name is Brandin Parker. I am a PhD student in psychology, and I've studied Yin Shi Bagua for about 4 years now. One of the areas of psychology I'm very passionate about is understanding power, understanding why people are motivated to do what they do, which is why I wanted to give this presentation tonight on behalf of the Utah Chinese Association, because many self-defense classes I've seen, and many I've had friends and coworkers attend, they always focus on the physical attacks. They focus on, oh, you can carry a gun, you can carry a knife, but they always leave out, why were you attacked? Why did those people pick you out of a whole crowd to attack? And I know since the hate crimes have been on the rise, there's even more of that feeling of helplessness. Every encounter, every situation, whether it's good or bad, has two parties. It has your attacker or your bully, and it has you as the victim. But before we dive more into that, I just wanted to give you that kind of background. I am going to present a very different take on self-defense and self-protection than probably what you have seen. This is more explaining the science behind why people are attracted to doing what they do, understanding your role in the situation, and then where do you go from there? What can you do to feel safer, and what can you do to make yourself safer, either through awareness or through physical actions. And the physical actions we're going to cover in the in-class portion over the next 4 weeks, beginning next week in South Jordan. So if we're all good, I think everyone is here. We'll go ahead and start with the PowerPoint presentation. Does that work?
Yes, and by the way, for the audience, we also have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you may type in the chat session or ask at the end in either English or Chinese. Both should be good. So
absolutely. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So I've named this this particular series on defensive psychology, protective mind and protective movement. Just as I was explaining, everything in self-defense is a combination of things. It's not just as simple as a block and a punch. You have what's going on inside your head, as well as your physical movements. Okay, hang on one second. I don't think it's sharing. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint?
No, reshare it.
Not yet.
Okay, sorry, let me, let's see.
So share
Just-
desktop 2,
Okay, sure. Okay,
and then
there we go.
Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, you should.
Can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so one thing before we get too far in this, I use the term bullying whenever I'm talking about someone attacking you. The reason I'm doing that is because whether you're talking school-age children, so first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up through, or you're talking adults, anyone who wants to do you harm or wants to pick on you or cause you problems is a bully. I know as adults, we have a very hard time with that. We think, you say, oh, I was bullied at work, and you think you immediately diminish it. You immediately make it smaller because, oh, bullies only attack kids. That's a kid's problem. It's not the case. In my own field of psychology, in organizational psychology, we have an entire unit dedicated to workplace bullying or workplace violence. So anything you can imagine a school bully do, you will run into that with adults as well, which is why when I have the list on bullying, I have your school bullies, you have workplace bullies, you even have relationship bullies. Your friends can bully you without knowing it. Your spouses can bully you without knowing it. And we'll get into why that is. But understanding how this is happening is very, very important. That's why I have this graphic here showing all of the different ways a person is bullied, whether it's one-on-one, it's intimidation. You can kind of go through it yourselves and just think to yourself, how have you been picked on? How have you been bullied? Or have you seen people bullied? It can be verbal, it can be physical. It always starts small. And so we tend to push it aside. We tend to say, oh, it wasn't that bad. I know in my own case, I dealt with bullies because I grew up in the military. So I never had the privilege of living in a place and building a network of friends. So everywhere I went, I was always the odd person out. And in so doing, I ran across verbal bullying. I ran across physical bullying. And it wasn't until my adult years that I figured out some of this was also psychological. If you don't feel safe, either you don't feel safe at work, you don't feel safe in school, that is also a type of harassment. It's a type of bullying. Let's see. To the next slide. So just pulling from some of the school statistics, because like I said, as adults, we don't talk about it. In this presentation, though, I want you to understand that both adults and children are bullied equally. These statistics don't stop when you graduate high school. They don't stop when you graduate college. They continue on. So most of the time, bullying is minimized. 1 in 5 students, though, in a recent 2020 study actually did admit to being bullied. They were made fun of. They had people talk behind their backs or make up rumors about them. I know for adults recently, especially with the Asian community, COVID-19 did not help the rumor mill at all. Many rumors started and exacerbated. And that is a form of bullying. That is a form of picking on others without information. And I know using the term bullying almost minimizes it, but it also gives you control. And I'll explain in a little bit why that's the case. As you see from the statistics, though, I dropped from 13% where it was verbal down to 5% where people will actually, they push, they shove. Something that wasn't included in this study was theft. I know you mentioned the Chinese restaurant that was attacked. Whether items were taken or whether it was they broke windows, that's still a form of bullying. It's still a form of harassment. So understanding why you'd be targeted is extremely important. The short version is bullies pick on you to establish a kind of power. And we're going to go into pretty good depth explaining why. But bullies try to pick on people they think they can establish power over. And they try to do it in areas where they will be seen, but where they think they're going to get away with it. It doesn't matter if it's a school bully or an adult bully. The mindset is the same. They're still children at the end. Because bullies want two things. They want to feel empowered and they want to be seen. They want to be seen being empowered. If you look all the way back through our history here in America, the white nationalist groups, the Black Panther groups, all of these groups who separate themselves out and surround themselves with others do so because they want to be powerful in their group. They don't want to be powerful in America. They just want to be empowered. But that comes at the cost of putting others down. And that's something I don't believe in. I don't believe you should empower yourself at the cost of others. There is actually a better way. So one that it was new, and it's been unfortunately gaining traction. So I talked about the verbal and I talked about the physical. And this is true for kids, it's true for adults, is the cyberbullying. Genuinely, I don't know which I would put it under, because cyberbullying comes in the form of, it starts with text messages or it starts with Facebook, but it crosses the line many times into the physical. I know, to date myself, I was in high school before social media was popular. So I didn't have to go through this. But coming up through college, I have had incidents where people will stalk me through social media. So what you put out on social media can empower your bullies. It can empower others to do you harm. And that goes into the awareness. People will take advantage of what you show them. But knowing that you actually have power in the situation. If a bully can't establish power, if they can't call you names and they're not getting a response, they will try to escalate it because they become frustrated. You were an easy target. Why aren't you easy? So they'll go to the next thing, which is usually physical. Now, we like to think, and I can say this from experience, we like to think that when they escalate, someone will step in, a teacher will step in, the police will step in. In all of my experience in 36 years, I've never had anyone step in for my fights. I've never had anyone step in and save me. But I have learned through psychology and through my own training how to become aware of when people want to escalate and then how to de-escalate the situation. Usually after it de-escalates, the issue goes away, at least with that person, because they realize you're not easy. And that is the thing. You have to show people you are not weak. I know that's easier said than done, especially when you're in an environment where you are the minority. I had the privilege in high school. I attended high school in Okinawa, Japan. So I was the minority at my high school. So I understand a little bit being singled out for reasons that are out of your control. You don't understand it from a day-to-day thing. But there is, as you'll find in the next few slides, there is a way around it. Fundamentally, though, the conflicts that are going to come to you are in two categories. They're the verbal, like I said, it's going to be name calling, the rumor starting, in general, just degrading talk. I know I haven't seen it a lot here, but I know a lot of times with verbal conflict, there are cultural barriers. Even growing up on different coastlines, I ran into this. On the East Coast, I ran into a lot of cases where people would talk behind my back. I had friends coming up and saying, "Oh, did you know so-and-so was saying this about you?" I didn't care. They didn't say it to me. Now,
那我知道，然后都就是你自己吃你的。
please mute your phone so if you don't talk. Okay, thanks.
Now, but coming out to, I attended attended college in Wyoming, people were much more upfront about it. They would face me to my face and they would say these things. It did elicit a different response. At first, I didn't mind people saying things behind my back because I didn't care. I didn't hear it. But when they say it to your face, it's something else. And I know just listening to the news, many in the Asian community have run into that, where people on the streets will spout out different types of degrading statements, name calling. I know they had the rumor about, COVID started in China, all of these things, but it's not based in fact. And that it's not based in fact. But logic only goes so far to help you. And that's why I want to try to show a way around this. But before you can do that, you have to understand they're attacking you so they feel empowered. And they're going to attack you verbally because they think, hey, I can get away with this. Verbal's okay. No one's going to want to arrest me for what I say. That's not entirely true. The other side is physical. Now, physical can be, they attack you, they attack your family, they attack your property. So your restaurant, your home, your car, your bicycle, whatever is yours, that is a physical conflict. Most of our laws in America are actually tailored towards physical conflicts because we knew it. It used to happen all the time. Physical also, though, comes in another form. And I ran into this more often when I came back to the States with positioning. And when we cover the question and answer, I'll ask this again. How many of you have experienced situations where you're being pushed into a corner, you're being pushed to the side, you're being positioned not where you wanted to be? I'll give you an example. I was in high school, and this was right after I attended high school during the DC sniper. So one of the things we became very aware of in my neighborhood, because I was in between three of the shootings, was positioning. So one thing we covered was knowing where things were going. You knew, hey, we never had white vans in the parking lot, but we have one now. The white van thing was just a really interesting, a bad rumor that started that caused a lot of problems because every white van became suspicious, misinformation. But people will do it too. I've only had the one conflict that was ever one-on-one. Most of the people who wanted to fight me came with a group. And the first thing they did is they tried to surround me. Whether they put me in a corner, usually it was a long hallway or a parking lot, but they tried to make themselves seem bigger by surrounding more of my environment. They tried to control the environment that I was in. Did not work out. It didn't work out for them. It worked out for me. Because one of the things that happens as you start to understand power, making themselves look big draws attention. Like I said earlier, bullies, no matter if they're kids or they're adults, they want to empower but not get away with it, or not be caught, I should say. They don't want to get in trouble by bullying you. And it's the same with adults. That's why I fundamentally believe bullies, no matter kids or adults, they're cowards, but they're cowards because they're hurting and they don't know any other way to convey it. So, like I said, this is kind of a reiteration. I can't stress enough, understand the two types of conflicts. Verbal conflicts, you can minimize. If someone's name calling, you just walk away. That's fundamentally the easiest. Now, if they start throwing things at you, they've escalated. It's become a physical conflict that has a different set of rules. But if it's rumors, in psychology, we have a process called REBT, which is rational emotive behavioral therapy. REBT is a very effective form of counseling, but at the most basic level, we use it to debunk bad information or misbelief. A rumor is nothing but misbelief. If you hear a rumor about yourself, the first step you can do is, no, that's not right. But you have to make that choice. Do you engage the person or do you just leave? Are they worth your time? Genuinely, that is in your control. And as you'll figure out, that one of the reasons how Bagua gets involved in this, Bagua is all about control. From the early stages of how to walk all the way to the advanced material. It is about having control and taking control of you and your environment. Diving into the physical conflicts, and this becomes more apparent in the in-person lessons, you have escalation. So I start down here at the very bottom with pushing and shoving and tripping. Things you would expect children to do. They seem harmless enough. Somebody's walking down the street and they bump your shoulder. Normally you wouldn't think twice, right? Someone bumps you on the shoulder. Oh, okay. Sorry. I wasn't looking where I was going. But there are people who would escalate. They would, maybe they bumped you on purpose, trying to start a fight. Okay. You can still continue to walk on and then see where the situation goes. Every time you interact, you have to rejudge this situation. That's part of why we call it defensive psychology. Now, kind of a side note to these conflicts, because I was unaware it was starting up again. There is a type of violence that it was really popular in about 2018, where it was completely random. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the knockout game. I was still I had actually just moved down to Salt Lake, I believe, when the knockout game was just hitting its high point in New York City. But you had random college age students running up and performing, it's called a mastoid strike. It is a strike across the collarbone and across the throat to cut off blood flow to the carotid artery and to knock a person out. I will tell you, in all of my 20 plus years of martial arts training, there's very, very few ways you can do that without causing permanent damage. So many people were being sent to the hospital. A few did die, but they were completely random. The person doing it didn't want, they weren't trying to call you names. They weren't trying to establish power. They were using you as a disposable tool to impress their friends. So in that sense, they were empowering, but it had nothing to do with you. You were just the unfortunate person on the street. So be aware, these random acts of violence, I call them RAVs sometimes, R-A-V, because they do occasionally happen. You'll hear about them in California too, with random shootings where neither person knew one another. They make up a very small percentage of conflicts, but they do happen. So I want people to be aware that many of these rules for verbal and physical will help you. It's not going to control everything as much as I would love it to. So fundamentally coming down to why bullies want to attack, why bullies bully in the first place. It's power. Power is most often defined as having the capacity or the ability to act in certain ways or to impose your will on others. When you open a door, that action of pushing against the door, that action of pushing against the door is power. The conflict is between you and the door. In English literature, you hear early on about the three types of conflict: man versus man, man versus self, and man versus nature. For the sake of this, man versus man, power is having the ability to influence a person one way or another. When parents influence their kids, they exhibit power in different ways, whether they know it or not. If I scold a child and tell them, hey, you need to go make your bed, that's one type of power. If I ask them to do it and reward them, that's another type of power. Fundamentally, there are 5 types of power an individual can use in any situation. Usually we don't think about power when we're being attacked, but you've been using these ever since you were a little child. And that's what I have to remind people is you've always had the ability to protect yourself. You've just never had to do it this way. So in the 5 types of power, we have legitimate power, which is power that is awarded by your position. So you're the manager of a team, you're the captain of a soccer team, a football team, you're the president of your company. These are legitimate powers, meaning the organization you belong to that gives you power has put you in this position. In a conflict, very, very rarely does legitimate power actually matter. And I say that because here's a myth. People assume, this diving head real quick, people assume a black belt means, you know how to fight. No, it's a perception. I can go to the store and buy 2 or 3 black belts. It doesn't give me legitimate power. It doesn't give me a legitimate ability. It's something that goes around my waist. Legitimate power is power in my group, in my immediate surroundings that others recognize. And you're going to find very soon, it goes hand in hand with referent power. Now, reward power most often is being able to offer rewards in exchange for something. This one's a little tricky because technically a paycheck is a reward power. Many of you wouldn't go to your jobs if they didn't pay you. I like to do things for work that I would do for free. Different type of power. But most often we want that exchange. We want to get something for what we do. That's a type of reward. Your teacher giving you grades in school, that is a reward. Now, reframing this, when a person is attacking you, because they came up through school, because they were always conditioned, if I do this, I will get a reward. Most often your bullies want something. Whether, they want your lunch money, they want your car keys, they want something physical they can take and hold and make it theirs. That is still reward power. So by giving into that, you're giving them power. You can work with that. The next form of power is coercive power. This one is most often treated with bullies. It's treated with attackers. It's treated with virtually everything negative. That is not saying coercion and coercive power is wrong. There are positive ways to use it. Coercive power is typically threats or manipulations to achieve your goal. So I know lots of movies do the, you see someone go into a store and they do the protection money. We will protect your business if you give us money. I know almost every movie involving Chinatown or the mafia talks about it. You'll see bullies do the same thing. Hey, I won't beat you up if you give me money. Yeah, but you're going to beat me up if I don't give you the money. So that's where taking the step back and understanding all of the pieces in the situation can greatly, greatly help, because once you understand you're being manipulated, they lose that power. They've lost the ability to manipulate you if you know you're being manipulated. And that's one of the things in retaking power. What I was talking about with legitimate power is reference or referent power. This is where you inspire others. Referent power is going to come into play at the end of our presentation, because once you realize you're a victim, and I'm assuming everyone here has been a victim at some point, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting in this lecture series. Once you've been a victim, you can't go back. So the next step is, well, I can stay being a victim, or I can do something about it and start building myself up. Once you do that, you start gaining referent power. People start to look at you for help in their own situations. This is one of those, an unfortunate truth that once you have been victimized, you either can stay a victim or you can do something about it. Now, I know there's a lot of anti-establishment movement going on with that, where people, they grab guns and they take it too far. I'm not saying escalate it that far. I'm saying stand up, take a breath, and face your issues, face the things in front of you. I'm not saying overthrow a country. I'm not saying do harm unto others, because then you're becoming the problem. And then you lose your referent power. Expert power kind of comes with experience. Expert power is a deep knowledge of the subject. So give you an example. This one I run into with school kids all the time. You'll get bullies who pick on kids. Oh, because you don't know math, you don't know English. Well, yeah, but I'm really good in music. Focus on what you're good with. I like the old expression, you stay in your wheelhouse. You stay within things that you're very good at. That's where your power is, and you build from there. You don't focus on the things the bully is picking on you for. You don't focus on the negatives or the manipulations. You focus on what you're good at, and then you expand out. Because you stay powerful. You don't let them take that away from you. So this is where power gets a little confusing. And I was talking about this briefly earlier. There is perceived power and there's actual power. Just like I was talking about with the black belt and the ability to fight, there is a perception. So people think if you have a black belt, you can fight. I will tell you, I have met many black belts who couldn't. The perception was black belt, they fight. The actual power, though, is a very different story. This applies to many, many situations. Bullies often think by attacking you, whether it's in school, whether it's at work, whether it's at the grocery store, they think they have power. They think they have the ability to impress others, and they think they have the ability to put you down. Whether they actually do or not is up to you. One thing I do anytime someone starts to bully me is I distance. I retake some of the power. Body positioning is something we'll talk about in the in-person class, but the first thing it does is it challenges their actual power. It challenges them to step up or walk away. Very often they walk away because they don't want to go that far. They wanted that quick fix. But in understanding that commitment, you also understand how powerless a bully is. They are going for the quick fix. They're going for that, I'm going to put you down and I'm going to feel good for the next few minutes. or I'm going to impress, some girl, I'm going to impress my boys. But if they can't impress it, then they have no power over you. If they don't have power over you, you're not a victim anymore. And that I find is very, very hard to teach people. You as the victim have a lot of power. You actually don't know how powerful you are until you start to take it back, and until you start to look at the things you are good at and you see what you can do. A bully fundamentally is going to target you because they don't understand you. They don't understand how powerful you actually are. So, and I can't harp on this enough, bullies want to establish power. Usually they single you out for some reason. They may single you out because you're a minority. They may single you out because you don't belong to any group. Every single school I went to from 7th grade on, I was the odd man out because I was the new guy. You always pick on the new guy because he doesn't belong to any group. When you first move to a new town, you're the new guy or the new gal. So you're the odd person out. So people think, oh yeah, that's an easy target because you don't have that network. They don't have that social power. That's a really big misunderstanding. People don't know how powerful you are until they face you. And that's where positioning, that's where taking back some of that power can help you overcome those the early stages. One of the reasons why I use this analogy that power is like owning a chessboard is because as we get into the physical elements of this, you're going to see it's not just, oh, I block, or oh, I do this. No, it's a long game every time. And it is exhausting and it does take energy, but you are more powerful than you think you are. Very often your bullies think, oh yeah, I'm holding all the pieces, but they don't know how to play the game. That's where understanding power, that's where understanding your mind and understanding what they want can help you navigate a situation without having to ever throw a punch, without ever having to draw a gun. So like I said, whether you're kids or you're adults, rumors and name calling seem to always be the first. And I say that and it's frustrating because it's just coercion. It's manipulating facts in their favor, and it's childish, but it's problematic. I know COVID-19 did a number, unfortunately, on the Chinese community. And I know many extremist groups came out and perpetuated it through social media, through text messages, through TV. Before that, we had political affiliations would get you name called and rumors started, and it goes back for centuries. And it's unfortunate because it's old. I would like to think we as a civilization have come to a point where we can get past name calling, where we can get past the rumors and just be good people and do what we do. But we're not. So one thing you will notice though, so once you've accepted, okay, they're going to name call, they're going to have rumors, notice where they do it. Social media is a tricky one because technically anyone can view it. But most often the times when someone starts name calling, for instance, you're walking down the street with your kids and you hear people shouting different names at you. If you notice around them a group, it's very likely that that group is who they're trying to impress. So walk away. Just because what that group is looking for is they're looking to this one idiot who is name calling and spouting off all these derogatory terms, and they're looking for that interaction. They're hoping their guy will do it. They're hoping their guy will get power. And if he doesn't, they're going to turn on him. He will now be bullied by the group. For you, that's what you want. And I know it sounds horrible, but fundamentally, you have to protect yourself first. Later on, once you feel comfortable with who you are, then we can address helping bullies, because fundamentally your bully is only attacking you because he feels weak. They only attack you, they only harm you because something in them is broken. So I will say, in all of the years of martial arts training I've taken, I've come across a few styles where they address that. Aikido was probably the one that stood out the most because of something Aikido's founder, O-sensei, mentioned. And he believed people who result or come to physical harm and conducting physical harm on others, they suffer from a sickness. In studying psychology, I almost fully believe that. But you, as the victim today, you can't worry about that. You are not at the level where you have any ability to change that or change or influence your bullies. What you have to worry about is your safety and the safety of those in your immediate group. Then, once you have built yourself up, then you can help others. This is just a basic hierarchy of needs. Unfortunately, we may get to the hierarchy of needs out of this too. Diving into a little bit of the specifics, talking about, I'm not going to go too far into this because it's very circumstantial, but using referent power to, they want to feel revered in their group. Like I said, if you take that opportunity away, you walk away, you shame the bully in their group, however you manage it, and the group turns on the bully, you've taken away their referent power. The one caution I will have in all of these is taking your bully's power away can also make the situation worse. So when I initially wrote this, I wrote this with school kids in mind. And then I realized it actually applies to adults. I've only had one instance where I had to go to the police over a physical conflict. But I had a very similar outcome to this. So, you have kids in school, they're being bullied. The first thing you tell them is, oh, go talk to your teacher, go talk to your school counselor. That's great advice. You should tell someone. But I will tell you in a personal story, when I first came back to the States in 2001, I had some really interesting bullies. And I thought that so I went to the school counselor and told him, hey, I'm being bullied. The next thing that happened, my mother was called and I was being threatened with expulsion. The school was going to expel me because I was being bullied. Because obviously, if I was being bullied, I was the problem. Fortunately, my mother was a longtime teacher, so that didn't get much further. But it taught me a very important lesson that fighting back, you have to play by a set of rules too. We don't talk about that enough. We always focus on, when schools teach self-defense, they teach you fight your bully. I don't want any one of you to get in more trouble because you defended yourself. If you get in trouble as a result of defending yourself, that wasn't defense. You didn't defend yourself. You just made a new situation where you're still in trouble. All of this stems around systems. So whether it was in school, whether it's with the police, and I know, especially with the riots going on, that we've seen examples of this left and right, where people defend themselves, but they're the wrong color, they're the wrong gender, and the system decides, you know what, you're the bad guy, because the system doesn't care. The system is trying to keep order. You as the bully, you're out of order. You as the victim, you're also out of order. So the system is going to try to restore order by removing both of you. I don't want that. I just want to go back with my regular routine and not be bullied. which is why I stress learning the power, learning why people want to attack you. And then if anything happens, if the system has to restore order, take the bully away. And you make it seem as if, not to say you weren't there, but you weren't there. And hopefully I can explain that better as we go. Typically, your bullies, adults and children, are able to bully you because they found a loophole. And this goes back to the groups where they feel they have power, where they feel pumped up. Many times, and I'll use a couple examples covering different races. Many times you will not see Asians getting bullied in downtown Chinatown, not by white people. Now, they will feel uncomfortable, but they don't have that power. You know, they're not surrounded by people like them. I don't understand it. I think that, my own beliefs aside, this works off normal stereotypes. Now, I can tell you, when I went to the ghettos in Richmond, Virginia, I felt like the minority, but I wasn't also going to start a fight in the ghettos in Richmond, Virginia. Just like there are pockets throughout the country of predominantly white communities. I will tell you, I feel uncomfortable there because I don't think I'm white enough to be there. Fundamentally, I have a fundamental problem with racism because it is a false construct. Everybody bleeds red. Everybody has a heart. You have 2 lungs and you have a brain. Everyone is the same, and everyone obeys the basic rules of psychology as much as they try to come up with new ways around it. You are all created the same. You're all created equal, and you should be treated that way. But they try to find little things that are different so they can establish power in their small corner of the world. It doesn't work that way. The world's not as small as people think, and it's also not as big as we'd like it to be. Because going back to where I was going with that, bullies want to be seen by their groups. If you take their group away or you turn their group on them, the bully has a new problem. In this sense, you're no longer the victim, but you're bait. You're baiting your bully into a situation he or she did not know about. Now, I will tell you specifically in Bagua, this is one of the strategies we teach. Not getting into the trigrams, not getting into the old mottos. The baiting is trying to stay one step ahead of your bully, your attacker. Once you've identified that your bully is going to attack you, staying ahead of them ensures they're not going to be able to succeed because you know what they want. Even if really you don't have a clue, you just know they're paying that much attention to you and it's not wanted. You know what that, you at least know fundamentally they want your attention, even if they want more. So now that I've frightened everybody talking about, systems, turn to someone you trust, whether it's a family member, a coworker, a church member. If you are genuinely in concern for your life, you're in concern for the safety of others, there are people you can turn to. One I meant to write down and mention, you can actually contact police non-emergency if you really feel unsafe or if you think your business is going to be targeted. Now, I don't know what they will do. I can tell you the one time I contacted police non-emergency over a similar situation, I was told it was an unfortunate thing and to let them know if it escalated. I will tell you that didn't help in the least. So sometimes the people you turn to won't be of any help. That's why learning power, learning what your opponents want will help you. The 3 rules I have: de-escalate the situation. Going back to one of my heartburns with most self-defense classes, I can't tell you how many times people have said, "Oh, use your head." Aside from headbutting, how do I use my head? What do I do? They never explain it. So I'm going to try to explain a little bit about that. Set realistic goals. And when I say set realistic goals, just like, you're setting goals for homework, you're setting goals for work, your first goal is to survive. I may be without a wallet. I may be walking home because I gave him my car, but set realistic goals. And everybody has their own personal line. You have to figure out where it is for you, but set that line that, okay, my life is more important than this. The next thing is control the controllables. Like I said, with the in-person, we're going to discuss distance. I can control what side of the sidewalk I walk on. I can control what part of town or even what town I go to for my groceries. If I feel uncomfortable, say I feel uncomfortable in Draper, but I can get my groceries in Sandy or I can get my groceries in Ogden. Okay, so out of 3 choices, I have 2 I can control where I feel safe. I will go to the 2 I feel safe. And I wish we didn't live in a world where you had to make those choices. I wish we lived in a world where I felt safe going anywhere, but it's not the case. So you have to make those judgments for yourself of what can you control, and more importantly, know your thresholds, know what is important to you. And then the last rule is, and I can't stress this enough, survive. Many people overestimate their ability to fight until they've gotten in a fight. I've been fortunate. I've had numerous instructors who stressed actually fighting. And you don't know what you don't know until you have to fight. I know that probably one does not translate well, but I can't stress enough, you don't know what you don't know. So survive. If walking away means you survive, but they make fun of you, fine, make fun of me. As a matter of fact, I will help you make fun of me if it meant I survived for another day. Going along with that is I broke down goal setting into SOL. Sorry, out of luck. The reason I like using short anagrams, the 3 letters, is it's easy to remember. So first and foremost, again, survive. Before you start thinking about, oh, why are they attacking me? What do they want? Survive. Relocate yourself somewhere where you have a better chance of surviving the situation. Whether you're a bully or the person you think is a bully intends to harm you or not, survive. Because very often, and I've run into this one a lot, very often bullies will say, oh, we were just playing around. We weren't going to hurt you. Did you think they were going to hurt you? Because you are the one that matters. I know in many cultures, we tend to put others not first, but a little bit above ourselves. So, when they say, oh, they were playing around, we have to fight that instinct to say, oh, no, they were really playing around. No, if you were backing up, you felt harm. You felt some intent. You have to trust that. And that is something I stress in the Bagua training. It's the concept of yi, of intent. Even psychology struggles to explain intent, but when people are looking at you, when people want to harm you. Most oftentimes victims, whether you're talking sexual assaults, violent crimes, bullying, theft, they all say very similar things. They all say they felt like they were being watched. They felt like something was off. That is intent, and you have to trust that. That ties into the second bit, which is observe. Observe the situation. Where are you at? I had the fortune, I grew up in a military family. So these rules were ingrained in me from birth. But where you're at, know where your exits are. If you're driving on the highway and someone starts really riding up on your car, are you in a position to move your car to the side of the road to get out of their way? I know it's not as common here in Utah with road rage. I have some friends in California who have had their cars shot. Bullying is not just in person, it's not just in computers and social media. It happens with anything a person can use. So where are you at? What are the rules? Can I pull off here? Okay, well, if I pull off here, do I know how to get to my destination? Do I know how to get to the grocery store? Do I know how to get home? Kind of tying in later with that, we'll talk about evasion. It's something a lot of people struggle with, but you need to understand, in order to survive, walking away and evading is important, and it will help you. At the end of the day, the goal is still to survive. There's no other way to put it. One thing I have to throw in with observation is, in knowing where you're at, will you get in trouble if you fight back? Now, I teach women self-defense. I've taught children self-defense, and usually this is not an issue with them. I have taught some gentlemen self-defense before, and the two gentlemen I taught actually thanked me because I used to never teach this. Will you get in trouble if you fight back? One big difference with Bagua in general is we teach open hands. So I teach a palm instead of a fist. I will tell you, in the eyes of law enforcement, that is a big difference. One of my students went to a bar in Wyoming with his girlfriend, and quite literally, a drunk oil rigger picked up his girlfriend and started walking out the door with her. I mean, I'd love to tell you harassment took place, but I'm not entirely sure kidnapping in the middle of a room is harassment anymore. So he confronted the guy, and instead of hitting him, he took his palm and pushed his head against a wall. The bouncer came over, they reviewed the video really quick, and because he did not close his fist, he did not get in trouble. And the bouncer told him that, had you closed your fist, you would be going to jail along with him because you started a fight, even though his girlfriend was being abducted. So even when you are in the right, you have to pay attention to, will you get in trouble? And if you can get away with it, how far do you go? Is it enough to survive? Is it enough to, this one's really hard to explain without the in-person class, because stopping an attacker, stopping a person from wanting to attack you is very different than disabling them. Many of the kicks, for instance, in Bagua are aimed at kneecaps and ankles, because if I have to fight you and I have to get away, I'm going to break your legs. Because if you can't walk, you can't chase me, or you'll crawl. But as a psychologist, I have to warn, you have to be able to live with that. How far are you willing to go? How far can you live with that? I will tell you personally, I've struggled with this because as I get older, as my family grows, I don't know where that line is some days. With things on the news, I don't know how far I would go if someone tried to abduct my children, if they tried to attack my spouse. But you need to have those thoughts. You at least have the thought once, what would I do? Because then you've taken that extra step, you have that plan. That also helps you identify, why would they target you? In understanding how far you would go, you also learn more about you. You learn, why would they target you? What could they target? What could you have they want? And you can work to take that away. For every single person here, it is a different case. And I mean, it goes down from race to education level, to geography, to socioeconomics. Poor people are attacked differently than rich people are attacked. At the end of the day, you're both still attacked. You can both still be harmed. So understand why. Fundamentally, though, your bullies, they don't like to learn. It's inconvenient. So understanding what they can take away from you helps you beat them. This is where the psychology and the bagua start to come together. So develop awareness. In the in-person session, we do this with peripheral vision. And I can explain it, but showing it is easier. If you're sitting here looking at the screen, hold your arms out left and right and see how far back, with your eyes focused on the PowerPoint, how far back until your hands disappear and I can't see my hands anymore. That is peripheral vision. That is the first tool you have in awareness, is sight. We had an interesting discussion in class about this. When you are walking on the street, how do you know someone wants to do you harm? There is a natural order to people. There's a natural order to groups of people. People walking on a sidewalk, now they will generally always follow the same route. Very rarely do people walk against traffic. But if they go left to right, pay attention to it. It does not make you paranoid to be more observant. Pay attention to sounds, tires screeching, a person screaming. I will tell you one that is an interesting stereotype is gunshots. Gunshots do not sound like movies. So one of the reasons, and it is becoming more common, unfortunately, we have shootings in schools, we have shootings on the streets, and people always wonder why did it take so long for people to react? It's because a gunshot sounds like a lot of things. It sounds like a car backfiring. It sounds like pounding on metal. So if you're not used to it, I probably would mistake it for a car because I'm more used to cars and trucks. Also, in tying with that, be aware of movement. And this goes back to the directions people move. If people all of a sudden are walking faster, or they're all going the same way and no one is going the other way, pay attention to that. And it's not just, this doesn't just apply to people. This applies to nature. Unfortunately, a few years back, we had a forest fire that came very close to my house. And kind of a newer home, we didn't know we had a forest fire at the end of my street that was actually burning up to my home until we smelled something that was odd. And we went outside and then we saw it. Had we not smelled that, house probably would have burned down. Developing that awareness is something you're always going to do. Now, taking back some control. Relaxation. I can't stress this enough. In every situation where you start to feel panicked, every situation where a bully is confronting you, every situation where you're just becoming overwhelmed, the first thing you do is breathe. Breathing is one of the keys to life. Now, most people know, or they've heard, or they've had a gym teacher yell at them and say, breathe through your nose. They don't explain why. Breathing through your nose actually breaks air into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is most commonly known as laughing gas. But for you, nitric oxide in these situations relaxes the muscles. It improves your cognitive function. It improves your ability to think, and it reduces anxiety. All three of those are a key to surviving. Being able to think more clearly in a situation will help you understand, and unfortunately, you'll come back to this long PowerPoint on why people are attacking you, because you're able to think. Your muscles being relaxed will help you move faster, whether it's running away or it's actually using self-defense to get out of the situation. So breathe. take that extra step, breathe in through the nose, take that moment. While attacks are fast, you always have that 2-3 seconds to breathe. The next thing is, and this one I find is very hard, know thyself. I know this sounds like something out of the Bible. It sounds like something out of the holy texts, but know yourself. You would be surprised how often people don't know themselves. They don't know anything about them. And I can't stress this enough. When you know yourself, you know why you're getting picked on. And if you can accept who you are, if you can be mindful of that and accept it, one, your bully's not hurting you. That's why I say when they're name calling, okay, that's nice, because I know who I am. That is in my control. I can own that. That helps with the legitimate versus the perceived power. Now, this is the hard one. And I struggled putting this together because I have been the victim of violent crimes. I've been the victim of a stalking case. And I will tell you, anything I say here, it's going to sound all well and good, but it's not going to change what happened. You have to accept the situation happened. I have to accept, for instance, I was almost mugged and my girlfriend was almost kidnapped in the DC Zoo. A number of years ago, I was in Washington, DC visiting my girlfriend, and we went to the zoo. Like you do. We were at we had just finished up at the panda exhibit when the pandas were brought. And these 5 college-age kids decided, well, I looked like an easy target and she looked good looking. And I will leave it there. Your imaginations can take it as far as you want. Got out of the situation because I was aware of it. I knew what they wanted and I was able to maneuver them where they didn't want to be. And the reason I bring that up, it's not so much as a personal story. It took me a lot of years to accept it happened. Part of it, I was really, really hyped. Hey, I got out of the situation and I knew they were going to kick my butt. But I also felt an enormous guilt that I let that situation happen at all. I shouldn't have been there. I mean, realistically, walking down to where we were going, I knew the possibility, hey, this is going to happen. And you're in psychology, we call it chasing the rabbit. Hardest thing in the world to explain is you're going to chase those negative thoughts. But all I can tell you is learn from the experiences. Learn why the bully attacked you. Learn how they did it. Bullies are not original. They're going to continue to attack you the same way. When they attack, Chinese restaurants, they always break windows. I don't know why. When they throw things on the streets, it's typically the same things they throw. So learn from it. Learn where they're attacking and just don't be there. And I know that sounds cowardly, but it keeps the first goal in mind, which is survive. And this kind of brings us to one of the last points, which is finding resolution. When you find your method, and you'll always hear me refer to it that way. I use Bagua. I use Bagua and Wushu as my method. It gives me a sense of control. I have friends who are judo athletes. I have friends who are Filipino Kali athletes. It's whatever makes you feel like you have control in physical altercations. But whatever it is, whatever your method is, avoid becoming the bully. You're seeing a big problem with this with firearms. And I want to single that out for just a second because guns are easy and most people can't handle the consequences. They carry a gun in self-defense and they say, oh yeah, I'll be safe. I have a gun. I promise you, you're not ready to shoot a person and take a life. Not only have you become the bully yourself, you've become worse because you ended someone else's life. Your bully at the end of the day is still suffering. So don't overreach the situation just because you are in danger, if you can help it. There are situations where you will have to make that call, but have that thought. I know these are very adult conversations and they're very uncomfortable. I've spent a very long time trying to find ways around the issues of what do you do if a person wants to kill you? What do you do? It's hard. That's why I say know when to fight and know when to walk. Using your head is understanding why you're a victim, understanding why you could be a victim, and understand the consequences. You are more capable of doing things in a situation than you know. Very often your bully is at the disadvantage. That's why they have to attack you. Very often a bully won't walk away until you do something, until you walk away, until you stop them, until you get a group. There's many, many ways to disarm the situation, but you have to remember you're more powerful than you know. I will tell you, kind of on the lines of my DC situation, peace and resolution are not the same thing. What happened will still bother you. It'll bother you tomorrow. It'll bother you years from now. And that's okay. You are human. That trauma is an innate factor of the mind, reminding you to keep learning from what happened. Talk to those people you trust, whether it's your family, whether it's your friend, whether it's your dog. My dog talks back to me all the time. Learn from it. Learn from those mistakes. I can't tell you the number of martial arts I have studied and then modified, and I've gone on to others because I learned from a situation I didn't know I needed, or I didn't know I was bad at, and continue to grow. You are only a victim if you stay a victim. If you don't grow, then yeah, you're still a victim. But the second you start growing, the second you start learning, you're no longer a victim. This is, almost didn't put this in here because even when I learned it from my sensei, I thought it was a crazy statement. He used to use the analogy of sheep in the herd. Everyone is a sheep until they've been attacked. Something that's most often talked about with bullying or violence is that, and I've been kind of harping on it the past few minutes, is you can't go back. Everyone is a sheep until they've been attacked, whether it's verbally, physically. I will even caution you, if a family member is attacked, it may open your eyes enough that you can't come back from it. But it's not bad. Learning is never bad. Now that you've been bullied and you've decided here and now, I'm not going to be bullied. You wouldn't be sitting in this lecture listening to me drone on for the past hour about bullies if you hadn't decided, I don't want to be bullied again. I don't want to be attacked again. I don't want to not feel safe. You're not a sheep. But I will caution you over again, don't become another wolf. Don't hunt other people just because you're empowered. Don't try not to bully others. My word of caution with that is, once you regain power, it's very easy to take it too far. It's very easy to start hurting others. You see it a lot with martial arts schools where students hit the brown belt, the black belt, and all of a sudden they're getting in fights more and more because they feel power. It's not real power. They just all of a sudden think they have power. But at the end of the day, and this is when I was discussing systems, be your own heroes, whatever they happen to be. One of the fortunate things going on right now is we're seeing different representations of heroes and hero culture throughout mass media, whether it's Marvel, DC, Dark Horse. I can go on and on. I'm a nerd. When you started this journey, when you started this lecture, you were a victim. Chances are, if you're still listening to it, you've decided to take back power somehow. Whether that's you just want to be more educated, whether that's you want to find your way, you want to take it back. Excuse me. A very famous psychologist named Philip Zimbardo said, a hero is taking personal risk for the common good while others remain passive. I've had the pleasure of reading a number of Philip Zimbardo's works, and one of his works in particular struck me. And he says that the opposite of a hero is not a villain. The opposite of a hero is a bystander. And I want you guys to kind of end on that before we get to the questions and answers, and realize that now that you've had a brief understanding of power, that you understand you don't have to be victims, understand other people don't have to be either. If you have the ability to step in without harming your goals, without inhibiting your ability to survive, and without you getting in trouble, without you getting other people in trouble, help others not be victims. Heroes are not defined by gender, shape, size, color, or background. They're defined by what they do, and they're there to help. I know that's a lot of material. I will tell you, this is pretty much a Psychology 1000 class crammed into an hour. But that is all I have. So please let me know if you have any questions. I will do my best.
Thank you so much, Brandin. It's really, really good. People text me personally. It's really, really good presentation. They like it a lot. So
good. So yeah.
Now come our Q&A session. So I will speak in the Chinese. OK， 现在是我们这个问答环节。So 大家可以问问题，直接问问题，或者说在这里头把问题打到那个 chat session 也可以。So now the Q&A session, you may ask directly or type your question in the chat session. You may use Chinese or English. Either one is fine. So.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I ask a question right now?
Please.
Oh yeah. Okay. You mentioned that there's boyfriend, girlfriend, and they're in the bar, and then the girl was attacked by the drunk person. Mm-hmm. So, what is the best way you suggest the boyfriend should do, or do you have more suggestion for the? It's better not to do something, and better to do something.
So, gosh, okay. That one was tricky because I chewed him out. I gave him a pretty good talking to after when he told me what happened.
Okay.
Because I told him he shouldn't have been at that bar. Bypassing that altogether, not being there, I still told him he did everything right. He minimized what damage he was going to do to the person who was clearly walking off and abducting his girlfriend. He did not try to escalate the situation. And going into more detail, he did pull his girlfriend away first. So he ensured her safety first. This is where I was discussing power. Mm-hmm. By taking her away, he took what the bully wanted. Because the bully doesn't want my friend. My friend was a scrawny little guy. He wanted the attractive girlfriend. By taking that away, he took some control back. By just using a palm technique, he basically struck the guy in the face with a palm strike. He used minimal force to shock the attacker. What that did is it caused the attacker to make a loud noise, and all of a sudden everyone in the bar was looking. So he drew a lot of attention to that attacker, which is why the bouncer came over and then basically gave everybody a talking to. So he did everything right, whether he knew he was doing that. I will tell you, in my own case, had that happened to me, I may have been a little more violent because I know exactly what would have happened. had they made the door, you have no guarantees the girlfriend would have been safe. There could have been, his friends waiting with a pickup truck just outside. Unfortunately, that had happened a couple times in Wyoming when I was there. So controlling the situation, controlling what you can control is extremely important, but also you have to identify what is it they want. Once you do that, as long as you both survive, or as long as you survive, if it's just you or if it's you and your spouse, you know what, you win. There is no right or wrong in being attacked. It's, did you survive? And try to not get in trouble. I can't stress that enough. I have had friends in very similar situations get arrested along with the person who was attacking them. But yeah.
Okay, we have two people raise their hands. One is Lisa.
That's me. I
okay.
already asked.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. One more from Tina. Tina, you may speak now. So.
It would depend. Like I say, it's very circumstantial. I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember how long I think I had only trained him for a week or two before this incident had happened. So we hadn't covered anything like Tina. I don't think he had even finished his first forms before this had happened. Which is why I try to, whenever we teach, even in Bagua, I try to give students a very simple technique that will always work. And then we build up from that, because a very simple movement you will use when you're panicked, when you're scared, and it's something you're not going to think about using. It's one of the things I love with Bagua. A lot of the movements are very, very simple. Now to answer Juan's question about how to help victims, it depends. I will tell you, okay, let me preface this. I was sent to the office a lot in high school because I don't tolerate bullies. I never have. I don't like bullies. I don't think people should attack each other for no reason. So my high school, we didn't have race problems. We had economic problems. We had rich white kids and we had poor white kids. And I will tell you, a few times we had some really major problems. But the first thing you can do to help a victim while it is happening, and I'm going to preface this, as long as you know what you are stepping into, you are getting into a situation where you can be harmed and you're okay with that for now, step in. I got between I became a friend of mine. I stepped in between two people fighting. Actually, it was more than two, but fundamentally it came down to a group of rich kids were beating a younger student because he was wearing a flannel shirt. He looked like a redneck. And I wasn't tolerating that. I liked the shirt. It was nice. But when I stepped in, I became the center of attention. I became the object they wanted to attack. Okay, that's fine. I knew that. I knew they wanted to attack me, but I won. See, my goal was to keep him safe. So by stepping in, I achieved my first goal, which was to keep the victim safe. And two, I knew how many people there were. I knew what they wanted. And I had already observed the situation. I had observed, okay, we were in a hallway. I know there's a couple of teachers over there. And we made, a friend of mine stepped in with me, seconds later. And we made the loudest ruckus you can ever imagine in a high school. Because guess what? Bullies don't like attention. So we started banging on lockers. He broke his guitar out. I mean, we just made the most god-awful noise in the world. And they turned and ran as fast as they could because a couple teachers thought they knew, they're causing problems, but if we don't pay attention, it's not happening. Going back to what Philip Zimbardo had talked about, that was the bystander effect. most people are okay with standing by. It's not okay. That's why he believes the opposite of a hero is a bystander. So to answer your question, where did both of these actually happened when I was living in Virginia. I attended high school in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The zoo was the Washington or Smithsonian Zoo. Thank you. Yes, victim services are very professional. And I do agree with you, especially with adults. Recommending victim services, recommending police non-emergency. Those are all good after the fact, after the incident has happened. But while it is happening, it's a very different situation. And that's where martial arts training does help. I'm not going to say it's a magic bullet. It's not. It can cause just as many problems. Understanding what the attackers want will do you far, far more good. And understanding what you're capable of. So along with everything else I've ever done, I used to teach first aid CPR, and I was a rescue scuba diver. And one of the first...
多长时间啊？春假？啊，2周呢。
Please mute your phone. Yeah, so we can hear you talking. So, okay.
So anyway, with all of that, one of the first things my dive instructor always told me when doing rescues, and it's no different than this, don't become another victim. Don't get into the situation if you know you're going to make it worse for the person you're saving. Don't get into the situation if you think it's going to get you killed. Fortunately, those don't happen every day. They do happen, but know what you can do. That's why I say know yourself, know what power you have, and fundamentally know what the person wants, know why they're attacking you. Hate crimes are a very specific, let's see, being blunt for a moment, hate crimes are a very specific form of ignorance. People commit hate crimes because they don't know any better and they don't want to know better. They are suffering from, maybe they got laid off at work and they want someone to blame, and they saw Asians on TV. There's any number of reasons, but I will tell you, none of them are good enough to actually warrant attacking someone and bullying someone. So, are there any other questions?
Yeah, we have time for one more last question. If nobody, I will have one question for you. So,
Okay.
Quite many people come to Utah for skiing. I have quite many friends from New York City. They talk about something like in the subway station.
Oh yeah.
A lot of Asian people being cornered to be pushed into. It happened almost to quite many single women.
Yeah.
So in general, what's your approach when things like this in this scenario, situation?
So a very quick piece of advice with I remember the subways both in here in the States and in Japan, that know your surroundings. So for instance, on the subway and I'm coming down, if I see out of the corner of my eye, if I see people coming closer to me, and you will have an idea that it's not friendly. It just, something says it's off. If you see a family, stand closer to the family. I don't know why, but people don't like attacking your families. They're not going to corner you there. I know in the Washington, D.C. metro, we had big columns. The couple of times I didn't feel comfortable, I would put a column between me and the people that I didn't feel comfortable with, just to see, are they really coming for me? So use other people, use your surroundings to your advantage. And if you really don't feel safe, if you really think people are trying to corner you, go to one of the security guards. I actually did that at the zoo. You know, that whole story, it lasted about 5 to 10 minutes. Time really slows down. Your perception of time slows down when you're being attacked. But I think it was only 5 or 10 minutes before I walked up to the security guard station there at the zoo, because while I was pretty confident I could fight 3 of them, there were 5 there. And that thought today still bothers me, that I knew I could handle 3. There was no way I was going to handle 5 people. And worse is, what were the other 2 doing if I was fighting 3? Those are the types of things you have to think about. Even in the subway, it's know your surroundings, know what you can handle, and know when you have to go ask for help. I wish it was more helpful than that, but
thank you so much. Yeah, that help. You know, I'll pass the information to the people living in New York City. Thanks so much. And by the way, thanks to everybody else as well for attending tonight's presentation. For those people, especially in Utah, located in Utah, Brandin, we're going to have a in-person training. So if you are interested, please let me know the UCAU, the United Chinese Association of Utah. And now we can pass your information to the speaker. So it should be very, very helpful. So thank you guys so much. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
So
much.
now I finished. We're done. So yeah.